Motoring 2011 on TSN is brought to you by Quaker State, real durable oil, and Michelin, a better way forward.
This week we are in beautiful, sunny, warm Florida, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. But you know, recently a longtime viewer emailed me and said, "Hey Brad, it seems like you're driving Kias every week." Now I know he was exaggerating, but in reality we've driven maybe 2 or 3. In fact, the Forte and the Sportage actually got on the podium in our Car of the Year program. But I do understand where his observations are coming from, because yes, you're right, we are driving more Kias, but for one good reason. 5 or 6 years ago, Kia and its product was not up to snuff, and we weren't going to waste your time or our time. But as someone said the other day, when you're talking Kia and Hyundai, they are actually like the old Honda and Toyota of old. They're building good vehicles, great value for dollar, and finally, they don't have to make excuses for poor quality. Well, this week we're in Florida to check out a vehicle that they're touting as the hottest, prettiest car in the world, at least by the executives. The car is called the Optima, and it's being built by, you guessed it, Kia.
If you told a car enthusiast, hey, we're going to take a bunch of front-wheel drive Korean mid-size sedans to a racetrack and run them around, they'd probably look at you a little funny, but I mean, Kia Canada had the cajones to do it.
5 years ago, if somebody said, would you recommend buying a Kia, I'd have to laugh at them and decline to answer.
Perception in the public eye has changed. Our customer is different than it used to be. We used to be a used car alternative several years ago.
Kia was always one of these companies where it's like, if somebody went and bought it, they bought it because it was cheap. And then it was a company that you bought was cheap and it had good value. And now all of a sudden it's a company that's affordable, has good engineering, good styling, and it's like, well, what do they have left to fix?
The transformation did begin with the Soul, and under the tutelage of Peter Schreier, who is a world-renowned automotive designer. Peter joined the company about 5 years ago and has been extremely instrumental in the entire design transformation of our portfolio, with a lot more sophisticated technology and safety features to consumers.
I wouldn't even call the Optima new. I call it a revolution at Kia Canada and for Kia worldwide. The Optima is really the next revolution of our midsize. We have a great sports sedan that is family capable, really, really good engine, performance-wise, fuel economy-wise, and clean-wise.
The version with the 2.4-liter direct injected gas engine, it's great. It does everything well. The turbo does it even better.
You know, one of the trends I like with many automakers like Kia is they're now going to 6-speed transmissions. Some of the benefits, a quieter ride and obviously better fuel mileage. But all of the new Kia engines come with something called gasoline direct injection, better known as GDI. The question is, should you care?
Direct injection is really the next step for internal combustion engine. It's going to give you the performance you want, the efficiency you want. That means more power, way better fuel economy, up to 12% better than normal aspirated engines. Not just that, cleaner emissions. If the engine stays cleaner, we have cleaner emissions for the environment. The engine will last a lot longer.
I love the Sportage, obviously making it our car of the year, but the new one with the turbocharged engine in it, my goodness, it's like a Bruce Springsteen song. It was born to run. It's quick to 100k, it's about 8.2 seconds. But what really impresses, and again it boils down to the turbo and the fact that you get all of that torque, it'll do 80 to 120 in 5.2 seconds. You think of fast cars, WRX STI is 4.9 seconds. Here's a Sportage at 5.2.
And for less money.
And for half the money.
We just got announced that it won the best of the best at the Red Dot design in Germany, okay? And if you take a look at the buzz right now, no matter if you Google it, no matter if you blog it, I find that this vehicle is the best of the best and the best car in the world right now.
As good as these cars are and all the recent Kias are, there are a lot of people you talk to who still think Kia, yeah, that company still has a ways to go. And I mean, yeah, Kia's not up at Honda levels or Toyota levels, but they're getting there and they're trying to prove it.
Well, I actually think it's going to give some of the established runners in this segment a good run for their money. I think Honda's better set up and pay attention. And certainly anybody in America that thinks that the big three are coming on in this segment better start looking at Kia real close.
They say that youth is wasted on the young. I'm beginning to wonder if some car companies think that styling is wasted on the young too. More later on Kenzie's Corner.
It's time to celebrate because the real deal is finally coming to Canada. On this edition of Test Drive, the Ford Focus. At one time, any Ford imported from Europe was something to be avoided. Just think of the thankfully now departed Contour. That all changed with the introduction of the Fiesta. It's a solid, well-conceived ride that gives the company an excellent entry-level offering. Hot on its heels comes the latest Focus. It's about as far removed from the outgoing car as it's possible to get without buying a Mazda 3. Not only is it a handsomely styled ride, it has the mechanical wherewithal to back up its good looks. The interior of this Focus has been designed very well indeed. To begin with, top-notch materials, very comfortable seats, and you can put in as much or as little as you actually want. But the one thing I really do like, and it boils down to the driver cockpit. Now over here, you've got all of the entertainment functions, as well as the phone. They're done through that screen and this controller, or this controller on the steering wheel. Ahead of the driver, there's a second screen. It shows you the trip computer and allows you to set the vehicle up, and you access the information through this controller. Now, the one thing I do like, My Key. If you've got a child, then you lend the car to Junior, well, you can set the key up, which does certain things. First of all, no music unless the seat belts are done up, and he can't turn off the traction control. No more smoky burnouts. In terms of ride and handling, the Focus walks a very fine line. It's well damped and very comfortable without sacrificing the handling characteristics in the least. The steering is precise and just the right weight. More importantly, understeer stays at arm's length. Through the pylons, the Focus handled everything thrown at it without missing a beat. Dynamically, however, there is a difference between the sedan and the hatch. The sedan is noticeably softer. Helping the overall handling with this new Focus is a clever 1-2 punch. First of all, it's got torque vectoring. Now in this case, what the system does when it detects understeer, it applies the brake to the inside front wheel. That tricks the differential into sending more power to the outside wheel, which turns the car into the corner. At the same time, the stability control system, it's applying the inside rear wheel. Again, that action turns the car into the corner. Now don't think of them as separate systems, they actually work together, and they do so very nicely as they push understeer a long way out. Another of the big improvements is found in the powertrain. The Focus arrives with a completely new 2-litre direct injection 4-cylinder that includes variable valve timing on both the intake and exhaust cams. The net result is 160 horsepower and 149 pound-feet of torque. The delivery of power is both linear and unflustered, which means it arrives without the usual 4-cylinder thrashing and its attendant noise. It also gives the Focus the wherewithal to hustle from rest to 100k in 8 seconds. The back end of this Focus hatchback's been well thought through. There is a needed wiper, a proper handle, and when you get inside, there's 24 cubic feet of cargo space with the seats up, and that number grows to almost 45 cubic feet when you fold the seats down. You do have to remove the headrests, but it's not that much of a chore. Now, if you don't like hatchbacks, well, there is a sedan, and it too comes with a cavernous trunk, just over 13 cubic feet. The Focus is offered with 2 transmissions, the 5-speed manual in the test car and a 6-speed twin clutch. The latter is the better choice as it's a delight to drive. When in the normal mode, the box does tend to upshift early for fuel economy reasons, which makes the sport mode the preferred setting. It not only finds the right gear when climbing a grade the instant the Focus crests a rise or the driver dabs the brakes, the box automatically downshifts to the correct gear. So from all of this, if you take it that I like this new Ford Focus, you'd be right on the money. Great chassis, delightful powertrain, and an interior that's been finished to a T. So what is the fly in the ointment? Well, quite simply, if you want a block heater, add extra. If you want Bluetooth, extra. Heated seats, extra. And if you want these things, rear floor mats, add another $10. Please.
For the past few months, we've had the 2011 Suzuki Kisashi SX with all-wheel drive in our long-term garage. But this week, we're going to check out its sporty sibling. And this is it. It's the Kisashi Sport made by Suzuki. And with this vehicle, this company would like to make it perfectly clear it's ready to take on the big boys.
There's a lot of competition for cars in the intermediate segment. There's a lot of big brands, powerful brands in that segment as well. But you know, it really comes down to consumer choice. At the end of the day, it's a consumer that decides.
You know, when you're driving this Kisashi Sport, with the exception of the S on the steering wheel, you gotta keep reminding yourself you're driving a Suzuki. They've come that far. Love the interior, great fit and finish, love the stitching, and really like the stick shift. Another thing I like, there's all sorts of gauges in this car, but at night they are all illuminated, so you're not fumbling around looking for them, which is why I'm always nagging you that when you test drive a vehicle, make sure you test drive it at night.
Hey, have I got a deal for you? I know you've heard that old chestnut before, but this time it's true. Check me out, the Menzoid, at motoringtv.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me the pleasure to introduce for the first time in Canada the 2012 Camaro ZL1.
I like the new car. I like the curves and just the style of it. I'm hoping to get one. The convertible has definitely piqued my interest, although at the moment it's just not feasible.
Well, hats off to Kia. They must have blown the budget because they've purchased amber light bulbs for the front, the side view mirror, and the rear indicators. And I've said it before, this is an active safety issue. I don't want to see more laws, but somehow this should be mandated in all vehicles. All right, let's head to the garage. Join Bill Gardiner.
Brad, one of the great things about doing this show is the seemingly never-ending supply of brand new cars and trucks to test. And you know what I tell people? They're all great when they're new. Show me something that's a clunker right out of the factory. But when they've got a couple 100,000 K on them, it's a whole different story for some vehicles. Now, this Chev 3/4 ton pickup truck is a 97 model. It's got 411,000 K on it. There's two trucks in this fleet. These guys service garage doors, overhead doors. They have two trucks with over 400,000 K, both with original engines. Engines have never been touched. Now, when you look at these trucks closely, it's not hard to see that this truck is used hard and used for work. I mean, the seat is all battered up, the interior is dirty. The nature of this work that they do with these trucks is inherently tough on a vehicle. The vehicle gets battered up, it's loaded heavily, it's driven hard. They're always pushing to make their calls on time. So it's a rough life on any kind of machinery that they use. What's the secret to making the engine and the powertrain last in these trucks? Well, it's maintenance under the hood, keeping those fluids, quality fluids, topped up, changed at regular intervals, and quality filters on those vehicles. Let's talk about the changes to the Quaker State 10-year 400,000 K engine warranty program. The Quaker State 10-year 400,000 K engine warranty program has been around for a long time, and it covers 15 specific major engine components. If you ever have a lubrication-related failure of any one of those 15 components, you are covered just for using the product. But now the program's greatly enhanced. Now if you comply with the program, when you reach 400,000 K, you could get a significant payout. They will pay you the Blue Book value of your vehicle when it reaches the 400,000 K. In the case of this truck, it's $1,780. Now, what you need to do to comply with the program, your vehicle needs to be less than 72 months old. It needs to be less than 125,000 K when you enroll with the program. All you do is get an oil change, switch to Quaker State products, and use them exclusively beyond 125,000 K. When you reach 160,000 K, there's 3 specific named products that you must use to comply with the program. You need to change the oil at the prescribed intervals by your vehicle manufacturer. Let's say, for example, you had a Toyota car, that would be 8,000 kilometer intervals. You need to change all the filters that protect the engine at the prescribed intervals, and you need to keep a record of your invoices that you've done this servicing. And even if you're a do-it-yourselfer and buying products off the shelf at Canadian Tire or Walmart or wherever, you're still covered in this program as long as you maintain that documentation, keep a record of your invoices. The great thing about this program is that at the end of it, when you've reached 400,000 K, you've still got a great running vehicle, and you're going to get some cash back that's going to offset all the expenses that you've had to maintain that vehicle. You're going to do that maintenance anyways, but now there's a bonus. There's something at the end of the rainbow when you get there. This truck, for example, would have had a $1,780 payout. They keep the truck and keep motoring, drive it forever. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardiner for Motoring 2011.
On a very cool May morning, a number of Ontario high schools unloaded their racing cars of the future as the crowds gathered in time for the 6th annual Orangeville Electric Car Challenge.
Well, just moments before the race, any words of wisdom?
So I don't crash.
Students are basically designing and building, with teachers' assistants, cars that will go over a 1-hour endurance competition with 1 charge battery. So there's no battery changes. Obviously 12 volt is 1 battery, and the 24 we put 2 car batteries in them, and 55 amp hour batteries, any choice of battery they want.
All right, here goes the official first pace lap of the first race.
Today we have 6 schools, approximately 14 cars running in both events.
When you look at electric cars or green technology, everybody thinks of it as boring or dull. The whole idea is to get students involved and show them different ways that they can actually use green technologies in an exciting format.
There were 2 racing categories on the day, one 12 volts, the other 24. Between races, an additional battery was added to each car for the second race.
Well, the new car, we started probably just at halfway through February, and it's been a push ever since till about last week, and we just finished it. We were supposed to have a race last Saturday, but it is raining. But yeah, this is my first race. It's really fun. It's exciting. So 24 would be pretty fun too, a little more speed.
We try to work 1 day a week, about 2 hours on Tuesday after school, and then what we'll do is when there's about a month left, we do some pretty serious testing, so it might be 4 or 5 hours after school practicing, and then every time we practice, we basically have to go stem to stern on the car because all the bolts come loose.
It was the Blue Vale Collegiate number 4 car that left its mark on the day, coming second in the 12 volt category and then winning the faster 24 volt race.
The best part of today is we've had a mixed bag of results. So we won, which is great. All the kids get pumped up. It's really good. We also had a couple of glitches. We had a couple bolts loose. So they win, but they also realize how important it is to check everything 2 or 3 times. So that makes my life a little bit easier.
Closed captioning of Motoring 2011 is brought to you by
Greener, fuel efficient, global. This is Chevrolet Now, driving our world forward.
Now, you'd expect a high-performance sports car like this to have dramatic styling, and I think you'd agree this car does. It's a pretty cool-looking paint job, too. But we're starting to see that even in volume segments, car makers are starting to go a little bit more dramatic. Those 2 cars that Dan's focusing on now, the one on the left is the Juke, the one on the right is the Cube. Now, maybe you don't particularly like them, but you got to admit they're different. And the reason they're different is that the companies are beginning to realize they've got to appeal to the younger market. As Alfred P. Sloan, the genius who made GM the company it was, once said that you can sell a young man's car to an old man, but you can't sell an old man's car to a young man. And cars like this are designed for the young and the young at heart. So what do we have as the successor to Canada's best-selling car since approximately the last ice age? Well, this is the new Honda Civic. And I'm just thinking, dramatic styling, well, it isn't kind of the first phrase that comes to mind for me. I'm sure it drives beautifully. Now, I did hear a story about the development of this car. A few years ago, Honda realized that the Civic they had in mind was going to be a bigger car, less fuel efficient, and they thought, you know, with the economy going the way it is, oil prices trending upwards, we better change course on this car. That's why the existing Civic has been on the market for so long. And that's what they came up with. Now, I'm sure it drives beautifully, but compared to these two cars we talked about, or the new Hyundai Elantra, even the new Ford Focus, is this the kind of thing that's going to excite the youth of this car market these days? I'm just not so sure. Now, I understand it's a huge risk when you develop a new car. There's billions of dollars at stake, and there's a tendency to be conservative. You don't want to get hung out to dry if the product doesn't happen to appeal to the customers. And Honda particularly is always looking over their shoulder to Toyota. And the Corolla, well, it may be bland, but bland works in this market. So, well, maybe these guys know something that I don't. I mean, there's a first time for everything. I'm Jim Kenzie.
Well, after a short time behind the wheel of the new Optima, I gotta tell you, it's hard to find something wrong with this vehicle. I mean, it's based on the Sonata platform, so the drivability is terrific. You've got the choice of two very good engines, and hey, you can get one of these suckers fully loaded for just over $33,000. Okay, I do have one pet peeve so far, no latch on the trunk, so hopefully they'll fix that one. And before we go, make sure you check us out on motoringtv.com. Lots of cool things happening there. And of course, join us on Facebook for the total motoring experience. That's it for now. We'll see you next time out as we continue to bring you more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
It's their fifth model. I think they're refining the principle. They're aiming at the younger crowd, but starting at 30 grand, I'm a bit doubtful. Younger crowd doesn't have 30 grand and plus to spend on a car.
Motoring 2011 on TSN has been brought to you by Quaker State, real durable oil, and Michelin, a better way forward.